Today we are chemically stripping 30 years of crusty, destroyed paint from the Nova.
Whoa, that is completely rotted out down there. And to remind you, the windscreen is worth more than the car. This is my Nova. About 4 weeks ago, we found this thing rotting away behind an industrial unit. It'd been left there for the last 30 years. We got it home and began trying to bring it back to life. I started off by trying to clear the decades of dirt and grime, and that interior, well, it was a fully natural environment. And after I'd made it less of a biohazard, I turned my attention to the engine, which was seized solid. But that wasn't going to stop me. After lots and lots of patience, we managed to get it running. And then it drove. The Nova was putting up a fight, and it clearly wanted to come back to life. After we'd got it running, we covered the whole thing in space age acne and 3D scanned the whole car. We're missing a bunch of body panels, so with your help, we're going to create some new ones and hopefully print them ourselves. Then last week I pulled the engine. Even though it was running, it wasn't running well. And after stripping it down, I found some internal damage. But whilst I figured out that situation, I decided I should focus on the Nova's bodywork. Now, I've never seen paint like this. 30 years abandoned, exposed to the elements, has really done this no favours. The paint is all cracked everywhere, it's dried out, and there is a lot of it. The paint job is very, very thick, so this is going to be fun. Now everything had come off the car very easily, but next up was the incredibly valuable front windscreen.
Before we go any further, I'd like to take just 1 minute out and talk about today's sponsor. Today's episode is brought to you by the good people at 3W Autolife.
Look at that. 3W floor mats are the market leaders in high quality, made to measure interior solutions. Now, 3W car mats are custom crafted to perfection. Each car mat is meticulously designed to complement your vehicle's interior, offering a sophisticated and stylish look whilst achieving a perfect fit through 3D laser scanning, ensuring seamless integration with your car's design. Another great thing about 3W floor mats is they are built to last. Utilising a very special form of moulding, these mats are built to be durable and withstanding wear and tear, maintaining their shape and quality for years and years to come. With this in mind, they are also designed for a hassle-free clean. No matter whether it's dust, dirt, sand or whatever, just get a damp cloth and wipe them down and they are back to being brand new. And for that extra peace of mind, all of 3W's mats are made with proprietary thorax material, which has zero adhesives, ensuring a safe and odour-free experience. Their products are made with TPE, which is a higher quality material compared to traditional rubber and their competitors. They have a huge range of products fitting everything from BMWs, Audis, Land Rovers, and so many more. So do check them out, I bet you they've got what you're looking for. A huge thank you to 3W Floor Mats for sponsoring this episode. Sponsors like them make episodes like this possible, so please do check them out, I've left their links down below. Now, windscreens are always a daunting task, but this is amplified with the Nova because they're really hard to get hold of, and the only company that makes them, well, it's a special order job and it's going to cost you a couple of £1,000s. I was very lucky because most of the time when you buy a Nova, especially in the state that I got it in, the glass is smashed, but mine was perfect. Okay, so I've cleared off all the mastic, so we're going to try and lift this thing out. This is quite daunting. This windscreen is worth more than what I paid for the whole car. Well, as you can tell by my tongue not being able to stay in my mouth, this was quite a tense moment.
Mission success. So there we go, the glass is now out so we can breathe a little bit, at least until we have to put it back in. I've gone ahead and also removed a few other little bits and bobs from around the car, so it is very stripped. There's a couple of small bits like where the wipers mount that I haven't been able to pull out because they are fiberglassed in. I will probably cut them out, but that'll be a little bit later down the line. Another major thing you're probably wondering why I haven't removed it is the dashboard. The reason I haven't removed it is because the steering column is actually fiberglass to the bottom of the dashboard. The dashboard is only held on by about 5 bolts, but I want to be very careful when I remove the steering column because I'm going to have to cut it out. I'm going to pull out the dashboard and the massive nest of wires later on in this episode, but right now I want to get on with paint stripping. The reason I want to do that first is I'm not 100% sure this fiberglass paint stripper will work, and we're on quite a tight time frame, so if it doesn't, I need to think of other options pretty quickly. I'm also not concerned because the dashboard is also fiberglass, but either way, I'm not going to go too close to the dashboard at this stage until we get it out. Now it is a very exciting moment. It is time to strip this car of its many, many layers of paint. I have done a tiny test patch and it seems safe. However, I still don't quite feel confident to lather the paint stripper all over the whole car. I still have this fear that the car is just going to melt into a puddle of fiberglass. We're going to do a test on this. So I'm going to cover this whole thing and let's see what happens.
So paint stripper and fiberglass sound like a bad idea, but the idea of having to sand this thing down sounded even worse. There's so much paint, and I figured if there's something that can help me strip that back, that would be great. This is the stuff in question, but the idea of something that can strip paint and also not damage gel coat doesn't make sense. Surely it would be so weak, because gel coat isn't particularly dense in itself. But I lathered it on our test panel and waited, and then added more, and waited, scrubbed it, added water, followed the instructions. That wasn't the best scrubbing brush, I must admit, but I then tried a patch on the car because nothing at all was happening on this back panel, so I knew I was safe. Well, if anything, it did sort of clean it. It made the white a bit brighter, but the paint was still there. I then lathered it all over this rear wing. This rear wing is by far the worst paint area on the whole car. Most of the paint is chipping off, as you can see, so I figured if this paint stripper was going to work anywhere, it would be on that panel. But it did nothing. I tried so many times with our test panel and this quarter, and nothing. I even just decided to start scraping, and that did a better job than this paint stripper. So I bit the bullet, and I decided I'm going to have to sand this thing down. To cut through this incredibly thick white paint, I'm using 60 grit, which means I have to be very careful. I don't want to damage the gel coat, and I don't want to accidentally scuff up any of the lines of the car, but it's the only option if I'm going to remove this paint quickly. And it's doing the job. Now, that time-lapse made everything look very quick and easy, but that was probably 5 or 6 very long days of sanding, and I'd got rid of most of the white paint, but because my goal was to remove it and not necessarily flatten the surface, what was left was still very, very bumpy. So next up, I needed to go from 60 to 80 to 120 to 180 grit. Again, this was such a long process, and you can barely tell the difference on camera, but By the end of it, the surface was very, very smooth. It was now smooth enough to prime. Well, one half of the car was. I decided it would be better to focus on one half so you guys get to see something different in the second half of this episode, because let me tell you, the second half of this car will be just like sanding the first half of this car. Even though the car still looked like a complete mess, I was really pleased. This was a big job, and underneath all of that paint, there was no significant damage, which was a win. It was sort of nice having the half and half because you could look back and see how bad the body was.
Okay, so there we go. The Nova is half sanded. It sort of looks like it's in a lava-themed camouflage, which maybe I'm going nuts because I've been sanding for 5 days straight, but which is also ridiculous that it's taken 5 days to get this far, but that's a side note. I actually think this looks really, really cool. I might be going crazy, but yeah, basically we took off all of the white, or almost all of the white. As you can see, there's a few bits around the edges, the detailed, delicate areas, which is just so boring to film, so I will be getting to that when I deal with the other side. But the majority of the white is off. I also used 60 grit just to cut through it. It was so thick. And then I've gone over the whole car in 80 and then 120. So it is actually very, very smooth. You could prime on top of this, but I think what I am going to do is I'm going to take the car back down to its gel coat. It's so little work at this point. The hard work was getting off all of those layers of paint. It stops there being any risk of paint reacting. I've had that in the past where you might have had a really smooth uniform surface, but old paint, you don't know what's in it. You put the new paint on, a couple of weeks later, weird stuff starts to happen, and that would be really, really annoying. So you'll probably see the rest of the sanding of this car in a 10-15 second segment in the next episode, because I don't want to bore you with any more sanding. Once you've seen one car get sanded, you've kind of seen it all. But the question does remain, do we take this back to the gel coat, paint it, do everything that we should do, or do we just clear coat over our lava camouflage and have a ridiculous looking Nova? Obviously we'd also do the other side as well, but it's been a long week. What do you think? Like I said earlier, to give you a little bit more variety this week, we're going to take out the dashboard and also take out the massive nest of wires. There is no hope trying to keep that wiring loom. So many things have been spliced in over the years, it's just not worth it. It's better to take it all out and start fresh. Also next week we'll be tackling the chassis and the floor, so getting rid of the dash and all the wiring will give us all the access we need. One quick thing I want to mention in this video, which I mentioned on the community section of my page, this series is being chopped up and taken by loads of people and posted all over TikTok and Facebook. And usually I wouldn't really mind, except for some of these videos are getting 15 million views each. And that is kind of crazy. It's not the end of the world because a lot of you are finding me through those videos, but it is a bit annoying because that's my content. It would have been nice for those followers to actually find me on TikTok and not some random person. But I just wanted to ask one thing. If you see those videos, there's probably not much point reporting them because nothing will get done. But if you do work at TikTok and you'd like to help me claim those profiles as my own, that'd be nice. So do email me. But if you do come across any videos like that, please just go on and comment, directing people to find the actual content here on the YouTube, or I have an actual TikTok, which is at Hudson Auto Films, no underscores or dots. There's a lot of people called Hudson Auto Films who aren't me. And I have a Facebook account now, again, Hudson Auto Films. Push people to the right place. I work so hard on these videos and I'm so pleased people are watching. And it's amazing that, 15, 20 million people are enjoying those TikToks, but it'd be nicer if they are enjoying the actual content and not some weird AI stuff. Anyway, rant over. I know you guys will do your thing. Let's strip this interior.
What I'm battling here is, even though the steering column was bolted on, it was also fiberglassed on, so I'm trying to basically separate it.
For all the keyboard warriors that say I should take this out properly, this one's for you.
But on a serious note, even though we could potentially try and use this wiring harness, to try and track down any issues would be a nightmare. It's better just to spend the time and rewire this thing.
There's always one. Okay, so there we go. After a little bit of a battle disconnecting the fiberglass from the steering column and the dashboard, the interior of the Nova is fully stripped and we're back to the floor pan. Now, there's a few things which I knew about and a couple of things I didn't know about, and now a few things that make more sense. So let's get into it. Kicking things off, this gigantic ball of fiberglass amongst some more fiberglass is what was keeping our steering column connected so firmly to the dashboard. It was a bit of a battle, but we got there in the end. And the first thing I noticed when I sort of cleared the floor out was the state of our pedals. So I don't know if you remember when I was trying to test drive this, it was pretty hard to drive. And, you know, that might have been because it was firing on 2 cylinders. It might have been because, you know, it had been seized for 30 years, or it might have been this, or it might have been all of it. But look, these are obviously the original Beetle pedals. Our accelerator there has not even got a top on it, and these are just completely busted up. Like, what is going on? I'm not sure what's going on here. There's a little bit of wood on the clutch. So yeah, definitely time for a new pedal box. Okay, so the next thing sort of brings me on to what is next with this build, and I've found something that might sort of change the direction, but I'm not sure yet. And the logical thing would be, after I've sanded it down, it's easier to sand it down once everything's connected and you can roll it around and all of that sort of thing. The logical thing then would be to lift the body off and properly address the chassis. But ultimately I'd hoped I wouldn't have to take the body off right now. Not indefinitely, but the ideal situation would have been to make this look nice, rebuild the engine or replace the engine, patch the floor up and enjoy it for a while. Start to understand the car, understand what I like, what I don't like, and then after a period of time when I've decided what V2 would look like, then I could lift the body off, which you could also do without damaging the body because they're separate pieces. It seems sort of silly to perfectly restore this thing without any understanding of what I like and don't like about the platform. Does that make sense? So I'd hoped on the chassis side of things I could just patch it up and forget about that for now. And I thought that based on what I had seen on the floor. Now, I know this looks bad, but this is just a floor pan. And surrounding the floor pan is all of these areas like this, which are very solid. We've got solid sections each side. So you could have just cut out this nasty bit, welded in even flat plate, or the floor pans are so cheap, and been in a pretty good position. As I say, the surrounding structure of it is all very good. But having removed the dashboard, I've found an area of rust which is slightly more compromising. So here we are in the steering column where our lovely pedals are, and you've got this. And basically, that is completely separate. And the issue is we don't have much of a seam to weld onto, and that seam is also pretty rotten. I don't know if you can see any of this moving, but this is sort of just hanging there. Yeah, I mean, hadn't planned to do this, but yeah. So that is what we're dealing with. So we basically have nothing we can really connect the floor to the Nova body shell with. I suppose we could fabricate a piece with a lip in it that could just bolt directly on, but that is the issue in hand. Now, I want to reiterate, I do want to remove the body from the Nova, but there's another issue which makes that particularly hard, which is why this isn't sort of an easy decision. And for Nova owners out there or people who've worked on them before, you'll know removing the body is actually really easy. There's just a handful of bolts and it lifts off. But in this case, it's slightly different. You might notice when you look around the car, there is no seams, but that is not by design, that is by choice. This car has been de-seamed. And what do I mean by that? Well, basically, you've got the main portion of the Nova body, then you've got the bumper, which is actually a separate piece, which has been fiberglassed on. Then you've got the side skirt, which comes along here, again, which has been fiberglassed together. And basically those two parts, they lip underneath the Nova. So the Nova front bumper actually stretches all the way sort of to around here underneath, creating sort of a skid tray sort of thing. And the same goes for the skirts, they lip underneath the floor pan. So if this Nova hadn't been de-seamed, we'd just unbolt the front bumper, unbolt the side skirts, and then we could come into the cabin, and basically there is a bunch of bolts, not many, about under 20. Then we would undo them and you could lift the whole main portion of the body off the chassis. And the issue with de-seaming this Nova is the body is old, the fiberglass is old and brittle. I mean, it's pretty good for the age and what it's been through, but it's still old. And the fiberglass used to de-seam this is also old. So you're not just going to have this very nice session of cutting the panels separate, everything comes undone. You are going to cause damage to these panels. And of course, fiberglass can be repaired and that's great, but it's a very time-consuming process in this car's case to lift the body off to repair the chassis. And before I went to such an extent, I really did want to understand the car a bit more and use it and know what I like and I don't like. It seems a huge amount of work to do, given it's quite likely I could use the car for a year and realise, oh, I really want to upgrade the engine to this thing. And that would mean I have to completely reinforce the chassis, which means taking the body off again. And it's like I want to do things in the wrong order to ultimately do things in the right order. Does that make sense? Let me know what you guys think. You know all the problems now, you know the sort of routes. Yeah, let me know what you think. Okay, so there we have it, another productive session on the Nova complete. I have to say I feel absolutely exhausted. This may not have looked like a huge amount of work, but it really was. That white paint put up such a fight and we're halfway. So still a long way to go, but I won't bore you in detail with that again. I will have to enjoy that myself and you guys will see a nice 10-15 second time lapse like everything was easy. But it really is crazy to think that literally 4 weeks ago, this thing arrived, we washed it, and this story began. There's no movie magic. This hasn't been going on for months behind the scenes. This is literally day by day. Every week I'm just grinding as hard as I can to give you some progress. And I think on the whole, with just one of me, we're doing okay. Whilst I've got you, I'd like to put a couple of pictures on screen which have been sent to me by David, who used to own this car. This is the car back in its heyday. For those of you who have seen episode 3 on this build, I did a bit of a backstory and deep dive into this car's history. David got the car in 1982-83. He spent a huge amount of time, about 2 years, restoring the car to its first version, which is this crazy red, amazing machine. And over his very long ownership of the car, he did loads and loads of work and also had sort of a second iteration, this very white on white 80s Countach sort of style, very cool. And that's basically how we found it. But unfortunately, by the time I got hold of it, it had been abandoned for quite a long time. But it really is lovely to see this car back in the day, and hopefully in the very near future, this will be gleaming once again. On that note, next week, it's a little bit up in the air what we're going to do. We either endeavour to cut off all of the body panels, to remove the body from the chassis, which, like I said, I'm really concerned about. It just seems to be the right thing to do and the wrong thing to do. Let me know what you guys think. But if we don't do that, we'll endeavour to repair the floor pan, which the more I look at it, it's not horrendous at all. It is very much doable. But if repairing it is the route we take, that is what I'll be endeavouring to do the next few days for next week's episode. So repairing it and probably even getting this thing primed. So let me know what you guys think I should do and what you want to see. And I suppose the third option is repair the floor pan, finish sanding and just clear coat over our lava camo and drive into the sunset. please do stick around. There is so much more to come on this build. I've got lots going on with the engine situation over the next week, so you might see that in the next episode, or it might be the following episode. There is so much about to happen with this car. I've been so totally overwhelmed by the support on this build. I say it every single week. It is absolutely crazy. So thank you so much. Please do continue to like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the bell icon. I think that's everything. Oh, and yeah, if you see any of those TikToks or Facebook videos, please do direct them to the source, which is here. If you'd like to support the channel further, please do check out the Patreon. It is linked down below. Over there, I show behind the scenes, early access, sort of what's going on day to day with the build ahead of the episodes. The patrons have also seen that I've accidentally bought yet another car, which you guys will see in the near future. And it gives the Nova a run for its money. So yeah, do check out the Patreon if you fancy. We also have merchandise linked down below, Nova merchandise, it's really cool. Again, any money made just goes straight into making this car live again. But regardless, I'm just grateful that you are here watching. So thank you all again for the amazing support. And until next week, take care, and I will see you then. Oh, and people keep asking my name. I've actually not really introduced myself properly. My name is Charlie, and I've got a fiberglass problem.